Hello, today we're going to walk you through just that basic events import, the data you need to worry about, those required fields, and some best practices around them. So right now I've got a simplified version of our Excel implementation template with the four tabs that you really need to be concerned about. So the first one's going to be this customers tab. Now a customer in Astra Speak is really looking at your department or organization, whether that's internally or externally that you're working with to complete your events. And so what's important here is this customer syskey, the name, and the group name. The customer syskey is whatever value you want to give it. Best practices around this, you can do just numerals, so you can do 1 through infinity there. You could also do the person's name, or actually the customer's name in this case, where you can do the organizational name. So I could come in here and type at Astra, and that could be my customer syskey. My name in this case would also be at Astra, so that name is going to be that organization or department that you're actually working with on the event. And then the customer group, or the group name field here, is how you want to categorize that particular customer. So this is great for reporting. It's really just great to group those for filtering purposes inside of the application. In this case, I'm just going to say an external organization. The rest of the fields here will import in if you have information present inside of them. However, that said, they're not required. So if you do have an email or a website or even a physical address that you want to put in there for that particular customer, feel free to fill that out, but it is not required for the import to go into Astra Schedule. The next field that we're looking here, or the next set of fields we're going to be looking at, is this customer contacts tab. The customer syskey, just like that previous syskey that we looked at for the customer, can be numeric 1 through infinity, or in the case of what a lot of our clients do, they'll just put that customer contact name. So if we think back to our previous example, I'll put customer syskey as at Astra. For here, I'll go ahead and put Chris defer triplet. And then as we go in, we can go ahead and put the first name field, the last name field, an email address. And then this image primary field is important. So if this is your main person that you're contacting that you want to automatically be pulled up whenever you're booking these events for these particular customers, you'd want to mark this as true. If they're not that primary contact for the customer that you're working with, you'd want to mark this as false. The rest of this information, as we go from employer all the way over to that IM name, those fields are not required, but if you have that information and you'd like to supply that, feel free to add that in and it will be imported into the proper fields and map appropriately. The next tab is going to be the events tab. As we look at this, this is going to have a whole other array of different fields. And so the event syskey, just like the other syskeys, this just needs to be a unique identifier for this particular event. And if you think of the way Ad Astra looks at events, we look at event as being that overarching umbrella. So let's say that we're having orientation. That could be our event. And then the individual event meetings would be everything that's taking place during that orientation time period. So the event meetings have times associated to them, and the events are just that umbrella, kind of the box that you put every single meeting into. And every event does have to have an event meeting, even if it's just a one-off, a single event. So as we come here and we look at this event syskey, typically here I love the numerals. I normally just go numerals on this one, whether that's a 1 or if I want to start with, a 0001 or whatever the case may be. Great place to start. Your event name is truly that. What's the name of the event? We talked about that here. We can just put orientation. Event status, we have multiple statuses inside of Astra Schedule. Scheduled would be one that's actually happening. Incomplete would be if you have details that are missing. Maybe it's a day and time. Maybe it's, I don't know, the type that you're working with on that. We also have pending and tentative, which would potentially hold the room, but it's not completely in a scheduled status. Then we want to come up with these event types. So the cool thing about this import, it's going to automatically populate those master list items, like your event type and your event meeting types. So in this case, if you already have those built out, you can go ahead and type in what you use for your event types into this field. If you haven't already, go ahead and just put what you want to appear in that master list. So for this one, I'm just going to call this a training is going to be the event type that I have there. The customer syskey, once again, if we're going back to what we used before, this is where you're going to plug in that value. And then we're going to plug in the value for the customer contact syskey. Description, attendance, whether the event is private or featured, event owner and event notes are also fields that you will want to pull in. And in fact, this event is private and events featured. You do want to put information into those fields. Private, in the case of the way we look at it, this would be one that you will show as blocked on the calendar, but no details of the event will be available to be seen unless you have access to edit that event. Most places we're going to go ahead and just put false as we're importing this in. The same with featured. Featured would be an option for filtering for a calendar view, but for the purposes of this, we're just going to import it as both of them being false. And you do need to have those fields appropriately displayed. The event owner, if there is no one included on there, sometimes people will just use themselves that are doing the import. Maybe here I'm putting C triplet, but the event owner, if nothing is there, it will just import with the user of import. So you'll see everything come in with that event owner being import. And as soon as you might make it change inside the application on it, though, it's going to change as the event owner to the person making that change. So all of these fields, event description, attendance, owner, notes, all really just subject to if you want to put information in there, you can, but they're not required fields. Now, finally, the last tab as we come over here is kind of the culmination of everything we've done so far. This is where you can come in and build, okay, we have an event syskey, customer contact syskey, things you've seen before, right? And so you're going to really fill the rest of this information out. So event syskey for this particular one, we're just going to put 1. Our customer contact syskey, the way we built it, it's going to be me. I'm going to go ahead and put in that event meeting status. Now, our event meeting syskey also has to be unique for every single event meeting. So let's say that you have multiple for this particular event. Let's say there's 2, maybe 3. Then you'd want to come over here and you would go ahead and build just like this, where you've got, hey, this relates to that orientation, but I've got 3 different event meetings going on with that particular one. And then as you go and build for your next one down, let's say maybe we've got an event syskey 2, you just keep on going down the line with what you're building. So you can kind of see how that would play out. So as long as this equates and this is a unique identifier, we're good to go. Here's where you'd go ahead and throw that meeting name. It could be the same as the prior one, but maybe it's not. Maybe this is lunch and then you put orientation. Maybe this is a workshop for the orientation. Your event meeting type can be a little more granular than just what we had before with training, or it could be the exact same. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make it the exact same. Event meeting description, not a required field, but you can fill it out. Here with the start time and end time, this is just the dates, the times that you're actually going to be throwing in there. You do want to put it either with the AM or PM. You can use military time or otherwise. And then your start date. So you want to do in that kind of month, day, year, as we kind of go around in there. And then we can put in the other dates that might be associated. Attendance, once again, not required. And then for your room syskey, this is one that's not required. So you can actually go and add the rooms inside the application if you'd like. But we can populate this. And just so you're aware, that syskey can be found inside the application at that room level. But it's going to be a concatenation between your campus code, building code, and room number as it exists inside the application. Event meeting notes, once again, not required. This private and featured functionality, once again, these are required. So as remember before, we can type just false in there and we'll be good to go. And then we've got our event meetings. So what you'll do is populate these 4 tabs, send that back over, and we'll work with you to massage the data, make sure we get it into the right formatting, and we're going to be in a much better place to import this event information and get you on your way for event management. Thanks and have a good one.